What is the cumulative effect of living inauthentically?
Oof.
Of living this charade, not being able to be, well, too black. Her 7-year-old says, you know, how come you and Daddy change the way you talk when you talk to people from work? Right? You know, that's the code switch, right? He said, tell her the truth. We do it to make white people feel comfortable.
The pursuit of belonging and justice defines the human experience, yet societal inequities often fracture these aspirations. In America, racial discrimination's legacy persists, impacting marginalized communities. While narratives of progress exist, Black Americans' lived experiences reveal a different reality: discrimination, trauma, and inequity. Dr. Joy Degruy's discussion provides critical insight into these challenges. Her narrative unveils microaggressions, historical trauma, and systemic barriers faced by Black individuals. It offers a lens into a society still grappling with its racial past. The token experience highlights the burden of navigating white spaces. Code switching reveals pressure to assimilate, suppressing authentic self. Degruy's articulation exposes how racial hierarchies persist, even in progressive settings. Ultimately, her discourse calls for examining systemic racial inequality. This analysis explores microaggressions, trauma, and inequity, contributing to understanding and action for racial justice.
So, Doc, I want you, because so many of us, we're in spaces that we may be one, you know, is one of us, we the token, you know, we're in corporate spaces, we're in neighborhoods because we wanted to move our children and have a better way of life.
Yeah.
And so we experience a lot of microaggressions. And so how do the microaggressions show up? And how does that lead into the dissonance?
Well, you know, anything like in our own life, your life, my life, there are times, you know, there are things like, you know, I have family and friends that lost their homes in the fires, right? And I'm working with a group called the Global Circle, and I, you know, sent in names of Black psychiatrists, Black, you know, mental health people, because nobody's talking about the Black and Latino population that lost everything, and they had inherited their houses, right? So I was dealing with that. You know, other issues going on, people sick in the family. These are things that happen in our lives, right? But cumulatively, what happens when cumulatively you go to work? There's a brother, his name is John Graham. He wrote a book called Plantation Theory. Really recommend it, because he worked in corporate America, very tip-top corporate America. And he talks about the cost of that climb and what it did to him. So he gets a call. This is, you know, every time it's a story. I don't know what else to do. I got to tell you a story. Real true story, though. Always a true story. So he gets a call from his wife saying, our 7-year-old just asked a question that stunned me, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to answer it. So when he gets home, she tells him that her 7-year-old says, you know, how come you and Daddy change the way you talk when you talk to people from work? Right? You know, that's the code switch, right? He said, tell her the truth. We do it to make white people feel comfortable. And of course, he left that corporate world. But what is the cumulative effect of living inauthentically?
Oof.
Of living this charade, not being able to be, well, too Black.
Yeah.
Can't be too Black. See, that's where, you know, where people, you know, I don't adjust it. Maybe I'll definitely adjust for children if I'm talking to children about things that are difficult. But I don't adjust for any other audience, because I'm a big grown-up. My daughter says I've been Black too long. That's what's going on. But I refuse to not be my whole self.
Right.
I refuse to hide who I am, which my whole life, you know, to get that good job, to stay in that space.
Right.
What do? The assault on our spirits, our minds, our hearts, constant assault. You know, laughing at the joke that wasn't funny. You know, listening to people say things and think it's okay to say because you're not, well, you're a different Negro. You're the special Negro.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever the case. I don't do that. Matter of fact, during Black History, that's when everybody feels it's an appropriate time. It's politically correct to be nice to, the Negroes month. And, I just, and I want to tell a story. Maybe you've not heard this story. I don't tell it often, but it's the story of one of these Black History times. And the only thing I'll do when people invite me to do stuff, generally speaking, I will, close friends, stuff that's where people are conscious and sane, or children. So some years ago, many years ago, I got a call, and it was from the coast of Oregon. It was these people on the coast. It's really very white.
Very.
Very, very white. And they said, we'd like you to talk to youth about Martin Luther King being a drum major for justice, right? So very reluctantly, I said, well, it's kids. It's okay. I can take my kids. It's a beach day. I'm trying to justify what. So I get there, got my computer, have my thing all set up, and they're 3 to 6-year-olds. The whole audience are 3-year-olds
Oh,
to
wow.
6-year-olds.
Wow.
When he said youth, I'm thinking,
Middle school.
yeah, at least, right?
Least 5th, 6th grade.
And so I take my computer, I just close it and put it down, because that's not what's going to happen. And they were all on the rug with their legs floated, picking their noses and doing it. It's all white except the adopted Asian kids. That was kind of in, white people who adopted. That's the only time you saw any other child. So I'm going, okay, God, what am I going to do? So I said, here's the thing. I said, how many people anybody want to do a skit? I do. All of these kids are hopeful. They're just so cute. So I took 2 little girls. I said, we're going to go upstairs. I'm going to be the teacher. I told them what the skit was going to be. I'm the teacher, and you're the students. So I had them in at chairs, at desks, facing all the kids with, on the floor. And then I had my back to them at my desk. I gave one had a toy, and one had a crayon. So when the little girl with the crayon, she got up and left, and the little girl with the toy took a crayon, right? So she comes to me, she comes back to her desk, she sees the girl took her crayon. So she says, teacher, she took my crayon. I said, she did. Yeah, so I have them. We're all standing up front now. I go, did you take her crayon? She said, yes. I said, say you're sorry. She goes, I'm sorry. I said, okay. So I turned around, sat down, and they went and sat down. And the little kids were like, hey, the whole audience is like, why? But I said, is there a problem? What's the problem? So I said, okay, well, let's do it again. Maybe they didn't hear it. I said, now, did you take a crayon? Yes. Say you're sorry. I'm sorry. I said, so she says she's sorry. She's a 3-year-old. This is a 3-year-old, waving her. She was very upset. I said, is there a problem? She said, she got to give back the crayon.
She got to give it back.
She got to give it back. Saying you're sorry, not enough.
Yeah.
So a 3-year-old understands justice. It's not just for her to keep the crayon. And what we have to insist is that they give the crayon back.
That's such a great analogy.
That's a story. It's really true life. Real life.
It's like this is what we need, because people think that, well, it's not happening to me. People think, well, that's not my life. I have a Black friend. My nanny's Black. I love Black people. My coworker, what's her name?
Right.
And so we think that it doesn't pertain to us. That's not my problem. That's not my scenario. That's not my life. But you really make us see and understand that it's all connected. We're all connected.
Absolutely, we're connected.
The human experience.
It's a human experience. And are we going to wait till, the fire's at our door? And, even in tragedy, I mean, Katrina, look at all the different tragedies. Every single time, the differential response to a tragedy. To a tragedy. They said, oh, they were just looters.
Right.
Right? The other people were finding resources.
I mean, it was the same thing even when you saw some of the images from the fire. It just recently in LA.
That's right.
People trying to get stuff out of their own homes, and they're called, they're looters.
Because again, that image is seared into our brains. And again, the impact, what we are carrying. I always say my people are a miracle. And
Yeah.
they are. And I wouldn't never want to be born anything but Black.
I tell people all the time, if I come back in the next life, I'm coming back as a Black woman.
I'll be Black.
I'll
be Black.
I'm coming back as a Black woman in the next lifetime too.
There is nobody like us.
It's not.
Nobody like us.
I I want to, because when we think that things have changed, so many things remain the same.
Yes.
FBI report in 2023, the highest level of hate crimes in the United States. Over 50% of those reported crimes were rooted in race, ethnicity, or ancestry in 2023.
That is correct.
Well over 11,000 hate crime cases.
Yes. And the most significant threat, according to Homeland Security and the FBI, was white supremacy. Their words.
Wow. White supremacy has many victims, you said.
Many, many victims.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that one of the things that really struck me because, you know, I spend a lot of time everywhere with all people of every walk of life. I just got back from the Netherlands, believe it or not. And, you know, I was asked to come to the Netherlands, and I'm thinking, you know, actually part of our DNA goes to the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
Oh, not proud of that because they were crazy. All get out. The people that I came from, they still doing blackface in the Netherlands. Just saying. So I was surprised because of, you know, those from Suriname, slavery. You know, they were taken, and, you know, colonialism, the whole thing, and they wanted to translate my book into Dutch. That's how resonating it was for them. But when I think about, you know, the victims, I think about indigenous people from this country. And now this missed my text. I have pictures of this. I don't know if I included it in the book, but they're definitely in my presentation, where they showed these people, this man sitting on top of what looks like a mountain.
Is this all the bison? The buffalo? The buffalo that were killed?
Millions of them. For the purpose of starving the Indians to steal their land. That was the purpose of it. And, I mean, rotting corpses that were people were shooting them from trains. And it was just, and I'm watching this, and I'm looking at, you know, there's another scripture that says, my earth is weary of you. You know, we have desecrated. Now, here's the irony about that. There's this one guy standing proudly on top of a mountain of skulls, a mountain of them, and two people on the bottom, another person on the bottom, proud. Millions. Now, let me just tell you something. Particularly in a place like Oregon, but anywhere in the United States, it's a good time to be a cat or dog. Can I tell you that they got better health care?
Oh, man,
they got
listen.
They got better food. There's even water. I went past a place. This is when I had a moment. I had a moment. We walked past a place and I thought it was, you know, some sort of a bakery with a dog theme. It was a dog bakery, and they had gourmet water in bottles.
Wow.
And there was a man, I'm not making this up, that was outside digging in a trash can trying to find some food.
Wow.
I lost my mind. My friend was in the restaurant waiting for me. She sees my hands waving, and I was just feeling some kind of way about that, right? So right now, let me just say, the millions of bison, millions of buffalo killed. I dare you. If a puppy rolled up in here right now, a little yellow lab rolled up and was running around, and we took some of the wires and wrapped it around its neck and held it up till it choked, gasped, and died, you and I would be arrested faster than if it was a black man on the other side of it.
Dr. Joy Degruy's discussion offers a raw and unflinching look into the lived experiences of Black Americans. Navigating a society still deeply entrenched in racial inequality, her narrative, woven with personal anecdotes and historical references, exposes the insidious nature of microaggressions, the enduring weight of historical trauma, and the systemic inequities that perpetuate racial disparities. The conversation commences with the acknowledgement of the token experience, a familiar reality for many Black individuals in predominantly white spaces. This feeling of being perpetually observed, of representing an entire race, creates a unique psychological burden. Degruy's articulation of the necessity to code switch illuminates the constant negotiation of identity that Black individuals must undertake, a process that demands a suppression of authentic self in order to navigate white-dominated environments. The anecdote of the 7-year-old recognizing her parents' altered speech patterns is particularly poignant. It reveals the intergenerational transmission of this survival mechanism, highlighting the ways in which racial consciousness is instilled from a young age. Degruy's resolute refusal to hide who I am is a powerful act of defiance against this pressure to assimilate. She articulates the emotional and psychological toll of constantly suppressing one's true self, emphasizing the importance of reclaiming agency and resisting the pressure to conform. However, this resistance is not without its costs, as she acknowledges the constant assault on our spirits, minds, and hearts. Microaggressions, though often subtle, are a persistent form of racial discrimination. They manifest in seemingly innocuous comments, dismissive jokes, and patronizing compliments, all of which reinforce the sense of otherness and perpetuate racial hierarchies. These subtle acts of discrimination, though often unintentional, contribute to a cumulative sense of alienation and undermined feelings of belonging. The conversation shifts to the broader context of systemic inequity, highlighting the differential responses to tragedy and the persistent racialization of poverty. The contrasting narratives of looters versus finding resources during disasters like Katrina and the California wildfires expose the enduring power of racial stereotypes and their impact on public perception. This selective application of empathy reveals the deep-seated biases that continue to shape social policy and perpetuate racial disparities. The speaker's description of witnessing a man scavenging for food while surrounded by the luxury of a dog bakery underscores the moral contradictions inherent in a society that prioritizes animal welfare over human dignity. Degruy's anecdote about the 3-year-old's understanding of justice, in the context of the stolen crayon, serves as a powerful reminder of the inherent human capacity for fairness. The child's insistence that saying you're sorry is insufficient without restitution highlights the fundamental principle that true justice requires addressing the root cause of harm. This simple yet profound analogy resonates with the larger struggle for racial equality, emphasizing the need for concrete action to dismantle systemic barriers and redress historical injustices. It calls for a shift from superficial gestures of tolerance to a genuine commitment to creating a more just and equitable society. Furthermore, the discussion confronts the uncomfortable reality of historical trauma, specifically focusing on the deliberate extermination of the buffalo and its devastating impact on indigenous populations, a stark reminder of the violence and dispossession that continue to shape the present. The juxtaposition of this historical trauma with the contemporary reality of gourmet dog water and human suffering highlights the moral contradictions inherent in a society that prioritizes animal welfare over human dignity. It also demonstrates how the past still shapes the present. The FBI's reports on hate crimes, revealing the alarming prevalence of racially motivated violence, reinforces the urgency of addressing systemic racism, the identification of white supremacy as the most significant threat by Homeland Security, and the FBI underscores the need to confront the ideological underpinnings of racial discrimination. Degruy's assertion that white supremacy has many victims expands the scope of analysis, acknowledging the collateral damage inflicted on all members of society by a system rooted in racial hierarchy. It highlights the interconnectedness of racial justice and social well-being. The conversation underscores the enduring weight of historical trauma and systemic inequity in contemporary America. The lived experiences of Black individuals, as recounted in the discussion, reveal the persistent dissonance between the rhetoric of progress and the reality of ongoing racial discrimination. Degruy's analysis underscores the need to move beyond superficial gestures of tolerance and engage in a sustained effort to dismantle the systemic barriers that perpetuate racial inequality. By confronting the uncomfortable truths of our past and present, we can begin to create a more just and equitable future for all. The discussion also illuminates the importance of reclaiming and celebrating Black identity in the face of persistent attempts to diminish and marginalize it. Degruy's pride in her Blackness and her desire to return as a Black woman in the next life is a testament to the resilience and strength of the Black community. Her perspective provides a critical lens through which to examine the complexities of race and power in American society. It serves as a call to action, urging individuals and institutions to confront their own biases and work towards dismantling the systemic structures that perpetuate racial inequality. Finally, Dr. Joy Degruy's words are a testament to the importance of storytelling and bearing witness. By sharing her experiences and insights, she provides a powerful platform for marginalized voices and contributes to a broader understanding of the ongoing struggle for racial justice. Her work serves as a vital resource for those seeking to understand and address the enduring legacy of racism in America.